story. Brands like this don't come along very often. It was laden with integrity. However, there was a real problem in that the audience that we were really pitching Greener Blacks to was very extreme, very organic, and actually we weren't really talking about chocolate. We were sort of saying, eat our chocolate and save the planet, rather than love our chocolate, doesn't it taste great, and by the way, we're also organic. And that sounds like not an important distinction, but it's hugely important because it affects who we target. So we went from targeting organic fanatics to chocolate lovers and used organic as our sort of point of difference along the way. We did some focus groups. We don't do huge amounts of research at Greener Blacks, but it was certainly important that we listen to our customers. The only advice I'll give you on focus groups is do not talk to people who have a middle-of-the-road opinion. Talk to people who love what you do, so your existing customers that are already bought into what you do, and ask them what it is you do that they really like. And then go and talk to people that you think should be your customers but are not currently your customers, and they're probably rejecting the brand for some reason. So talk to fans and talk to rejectors, because if you talk to people in the middle, they'll tell you nothing of any great interest, to be honest. They'll be quite blasé about things. What we found in the research is that when we talked to our real fans, they said, well, I noticed Greener Blacks because it was organic. That's what brought it to my attention. But the reason I buy Greener Blacks is I just love the taste of your chocolate. I keep buying it because actually it's fantastic chocolate. So even the sort of more green people were actually buying it time and time again because it tasted great. And we then spoke to people that were rejectors, and they were buying what I would consider to be competitor brands. So we looked at what they were currently buying and said, how would we get them to switch? And they were buying brands like Lindt chocolates. They were buying nice chocolate from Marks & Spencer, places like Thornton, so a little bit of a step up from the mainstream brands. And they were big chocoholics. They were enjoying their chocolate very regularly. And I remember being in this focus group. The first one we did was down in Brighton. And those of you who've done the focus groups, when you sit there in a room behind a screen, what we do with chocolate is put all the chocolate on the table, and people are in the room for about an hour, and they get to taste the chocolate. And we had Marks & Spencer, Lindt, all these chocolates there. And the ladies in the focus group, there's about 13 or 14 ladies, 35 to 55-year-old ladies, and they ate everything in the room other than Greener Blacks. And it's free chocolate, and we knew at that point we've got a real problem here. For some reason, people aren't picking up Greener Blacks, even when it's available free. And I, at the end of the group, went up to one of the ladies and said, actually, the reason you're here tonight is I work for a little company called Greener Blacks. We've actually paid for this, and it would be really helpful if you tell us what you think about our chocolate, because you seem to have enjoyed every other brand and talked about that, but not the brand that I represent. Can I ask you why you didn't want to open the chocolate or try it? And she said she just launched into a barrage of abuse, basically, about the brand, which wasn't nice at the time, but was very helpful with hindsight. And she said, well, I don't understand organic chocolate. That's just ridiculous. She said, chocolate is about, it's a sin. It's indulgent. Organic's about health. How does that work? Is this diet chocolate? I said, no. It's just actually that the cocoa and all the ingredients we use are not sprayed with chemicals, and actually cocoa is one of the most sprayed food crops in the world. So there's an education piece to do there. And then she said, the problem with your chocolate, she said, it's very worthy, isn't it? And she said, when I'm having chocolate, it's nice that you're looking after the cocoa growers, but to be honest, I'm concerned about me. And she said, it's my chocolate moments. And I have kind of chocolate credits, I think she described it as. Credits, and she said, to be honest, I'm not going to waste my credits on you because I don't think that you're going to taste very good. I said, well, please taste the chocolate. So she looked at it again. She said, actually, I'll tell you what your chocolate is. She said, it's charity chocolate. It's very well-meaning, but I don't think it's going to be very good. So she tried it, and we had the reaction that we hopefully have ever since, where she said, actually, this is really amazing chocolate. She turned and introduced it to everyone else in the room as they were leaving. And I left there that evening being so clearer than I've ever been on any brand about what we needed to do with Greener Blacks, which was firstly to sort out the packaging design, because actually the packaging at the time just looked a little bit too worthy, and that's it in the bottom left-hand corner. And secondly, we needed to get as many people as possible to try the chocolate, so we needed to give away free chocolate. So it's not marketing rocket science. Clearly needed to do it in a very targeted way, in a stylish way. But we needed to look more stylish and then get people tasting the chocolate. And in a nutshell, and you saw from the video, we've spent the last sort of 7 or 8 years doing exactly that in a very targeted way, hopefully in an aspirational way. And the first thing we did was to change perception from the worthy side of organic to looking and feeling and talking as if we were a chocolate brand. So I call it premium green. So just because you're organic doesn't mean you can't be indulgent and luxurious at the same time. And we introduced this packaging, which is still pretty much the packaging we sell, in 2002. And I remember Green and Blacks is based near Waterloo Station in London in a really sort of, well, at the time, a very rundown old loft conversion office that we had. And there were about 20 people who were working there. And I remember putting up a sign in our kitchen, which also was our boardroom at the time, saying, today is the day we go from being the market leader of organic chocolate to being a complete nobody in the wider chocolate market. So actually, there's lots to go for. And we changed our targeting. And it's so, so important that you know who you're targeting. Because we were really behaving as if everybody understood and was as interested in organic as our founders, which meant we were a very minority interest, yet actually we had a fantastic proposition that could appeal so much more to more people. But we needed to accept that those people probably didn't need to sort of become lifetime members of Greenpeace before enjoying our chocolate. So we needed to talk to them about chocolate first and foremost. So this is the packaging that was introduced. I always say on any brand, I look at it in two ways. What is it about the brand that is unchangeable? And that's definitely not its packaging, not its advertising or its marketing strategy. It's what the brand stands for, what's in the DNA. And on any business or brand, imagine you're sort of on a balloon flight and actually you've run out of gas. And on any brand or company, people say, well, I've got all these assets, all these things that are important to my company. And it's a great test and exercise to say, well, what would you throw out of the balloon first, really? What do you think is important? But actually, if you really thought about it, you could live without. And you should be left with those things that you refuse to give up. And for Green and Blacks, so the DNA is about organic. For us, that's not just a marketing label. That's absolutely integral to the way we make our chocolate and behave as a business. Ethical trading. So we were the pioneering first fair trade company, and we continue to adopt those principles today. So that's something that we will never change. And we are a company run by foodies generally. The guy in this picture is our head of taste, as we describe him. He's not he looks a bit like Jamie Oliver. He's not a classic sort of chocolate developer in a white lab coat. His passion in life is wine. He's a fantastically knowledgeable wine guy, and we hired him from the wine industry to bring that kind of taste integrity into chocolate. So we don't think of chocolate as snacks or confection. We think of it as food and try and develop really high-quality versions of confectionery. So there's what's in the DNA of your company, and I would always urge you to be really clear about that. And don't confuse latest marketing campaigns with what's in the DNA. They're very different things. And then the second thing, if you are trying to take on bigger companies, you need to adopt a challenger brand behavior, as I would call it, which is how you go about doing things, being clear on who you're targeting, and then what type of marketing decisions you make. Because it's highly likely that you will not have the same level of budget or resources or capability in terms of people as some of your bigger competitors. So what you can't do is do the same as they do, but with less money. You can't do a low-budget version of the big company. What you've got to do is say, what can we really do well? And let's do it with conviction and try and pick off the big companies around the edges. Because big companies, whilst they might be mighty and have big scale, generally are quite slow to react, and they like to do very big initiatives. And if you pick them off around the edges, you can take them on. If you go head on, generally you fail. But you have to focus on a niche and make that niche matter and make it bigger. So for Green and Blacks, just to give you some examples of that, who is the target audience? We describe our target audience as we try and paint portraits of who they are. So we do have a few statistics to describe them. But generally, I reckon that these four groupings here represent about 1 in 5 UK households. And we would say they are our target audience for Green and Black. So we're not trying to attract everybody. And they're likely to be interested in food or interested in the environment. Those are the sort of factors that generally define them. And if you looked at Green and Black's early customers, on the far left and far right, we had adventurous foodies. And these were people who often bought Green and Blacks to cook with because it had 70% cocoa. They're into the recipes.